Many formats to be played. Standard, historic, brawl. We can play Magic Arena all day. Monday, Meta Monday. Monday, Meta Monday. How we doing, folks? Welcome back. We're kicking off with a Meta Monday this morning. We've got lots of data to look at from various things. Well, we have some amount of data. So to kick things off with, we do have some Alchemy on Untapped now. So we've got Untapped has added Alchemy along with Standard, Historic, and Historic Brawl to drop down metrics here. And the decks doing well here, I don't think are particularly a surprise to anyone that's been playing Historic. I think the one thing that kind of jumped out at me the most was, man, that Boros win rate is real strong at 67.1% at 12.4% of the format. I feel like this deck is one that we're going to see. Where is it? Is one that we're gonna see. We're gonna see its win rate probably come down a bit as people have to learn to try and respect it, because I know going into this previous weekend, while Dragons being a good deck, or Dragons being a deck in the format, was definitely something that was like on my radar personally, as far as like best decks in the formats go, I definitely didn't have it as a consideration there. And now that that's something you need to be thinking about, I'm wondering if we're going to see this pulled down as people start teching for it more, or if maybe this could potentially be one of the first things we see in that first round of buffs and debuffs that we're going to get in this format, you know, come sometime in January. Other decks here that have metagame percentages that are reasonably high have pretty realistic win rates, all things considered. Now, one thing that's worth poking at here is the best of one Alchemy ladder is like drastically different than the best of three ladder. We click over to this, and Dragon still has a pretty low representation here, and notably, Dragons has a much worse win rate while also having a lower play percentage. And I think this is kind of to be expected. I think I would describe the Dragons variations as kind of being the mid-range decks of Alchemy so far. And kind of the mid-range decks of Alchemy so far, and the mid-range deck getting better in best of three compared to best of one, I think makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. Similar with the mono black deck, you know, this deck having a much higher win rate in best of three. It's also kind of mid-rangey, I think makes a lot of sense. Something that's noteworthy here is you'll note that specifically this Esper party deck is the Esper Clerics variation. If we click into here and look at some deck lists, this is the basically just Inquisitor, Captain, Pyre of Heroes Cleric deck. And the prevalence and power of this archetype, I think is part of why we see things like Dragons having slightly worse win rates in this best of one format, because I think decks like Dragons can't really keep up with these cleric decks without being able to board into more interaction. And then, you know, going back to here, we have both Orzhov clerics and Esper clerics being reasonably represented with good win rates, the top win rates here in best of one. But in best of three, they're not even a blip. And I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, we see this with talk about Historic for a moment here. We see this with Historic too, where the best deck in best of one Historic, one of the most played decks, is kind of consistently mono green elves for best of 1 historic that we're looking at here. And when you transition to best of 3 historic, it's basically never even a blip because it's the type of deck that's good at racing people with a linear game plan game 1, and then all the decks in post board games are able to become very interactive in a way that punishes it. Now, over the weekend, we had a few different smaller Alchemy tournaments on MTG Melee. It is worth noting that this matchup matrix is probably small enough sample sizes everywhere to the point of being useless, but we can look at and see kind of the overall match win rates here. Cleric's actually having a pretty okay weekend in the couple of tournaments that went on there. In addition to the Hoaglandia Open that had 43 people playing it, there was also this other community tournament that had 61 people, so 100 different people playing in Alchemy tournaments over the weekend. But Boros Dragons, the Dragons decks, again, just had very, very strong days. I think this deck being kind of a powerful mid-rangey deck that has decent proactive plan with the Dragon Beatdown, but then also can be very interactive. Post-board, if being interactive is good, feels pretty decent in the format as a whole. Did we have any historic over the weekend? Let's take a peekaboo here real quick. Doesn't look like it. I think there was actually a couple of standard tournaments over the weekend. So for morbid curiosity's sake, let's load this one and take a look at. Yeah, or actually a few standard tournaments here. Looks like still just the standard that I remember. Plenty of Izzet, Epiphany, and Izzet Control, with the 2 aggro decks being at the top of the format because, yeah, those are the decks that can keep up with the blue-red decks. All right, anything I didn't cover in this today that people are interested in seeing there be talk about? So thanks for the 23 months, Jay Hurst. Welcome back. Ryumi, thanks for the 19. Duck Doolittle, thanks for the 20 months. Dragonite is sweet in Pokemon Unite. Yeah. The fact that there's not just blue-based control decks ever. Dimir control continues to be a joke in in regular standard. Some things never change. Yeah. Yeah, man. The regular standard ladder is just like, what, 3 decks or 60%? It's so nice that instead of being annoyed by this, I just get to ignore it now. Yeah, this is mislabeled on Untapped here. This is the Meat Hook control deck. It shouldn't be called aggro. It also has a really high win rate, I assume, because the sample size is incredibly small. Like, this is a 3%, so 3% having a 63% rate. Usually, I'd wager both of these will go down significantly if the play rates on these went up. This is Jund mid-range, a Treasures deck. Yeah. Yeah, just 3 decks, 60% of the format, and the team before you lump in the other blue-red decks here.